Hello YouTube, welcome back to Old Maryland 63 C10. This is episode 9 in the process of rebuilding Hank, our 63 C10. In today's episode, we're going to talk about paint or powder as far as coating the frame and suspension, so stick around. Okay, so as I said in the beginning, this episode is going to be basically getting the frame and suspension ready for either paint or powder. I'm not sure which one I'm going to do exactly yet. I want to price out everything and take a couple things into account. But I think at this point, I've pretty much mocked up everything that I need to mock up that's either requiring drilling or making some modifications to the frame, from the fuel lines to exhaust and some other things like that. So I think I'm pretty much done with those changes. Again, I wanted to get everything drilled or cut or whatever I needed to do before it was painted or powder coated, just because I didn't want to mess up fresh paint or fresh powder coating. So I think I'm pretty much there. I left off in the last episode. I was waiting for a few parts. So let's take a second and show you a couple quick updates that I did to kind of finalize some things to be ready to then start taking everything right back apart. So let's look at some of the things I tidied up. Okay, so from the last video, I didn't have these fittings here in order to attach the fuel lines. So I had to wait for those to come in, but I've pretty much got everything drilled and in place where I want it to go. I ended up running a long stretch of rubber fuel line from the tank. It goes into the frame, comes outside the cross member, and then connects to the first part of the stainless steel line down here. Again, this is where I figured if I needed to take the tank out, it would be almost impossible to take a clamp up under the bed off in order to take the tank out. So I brought the line around to here, and I'll eventually put a clamp. I don't have any clamps on anything right now because it's just all kind of fitted together, but this will be clamped in here in case I need to remove the tank. So again, I brought the rubber hose through there and to this piece of stainless, and then it kind of jogs away from the frame a little bit and then back to it. I put a clamp in down the bottom here to secure it. Then it comes up to a 90 and then goes into a 90-degree fitting here. And it is, I think, tucked away from the track bar enough. It is going to sit down, the truck's going to sit down 3-inch, got 3-inch drop springs. I don't think I'm going to have a problem with that, but tucked it up against the frame and then comes around here to the fuel pump. And let me go on the other side to get a better shot of that. So I got the fuel pump mounted. The line comes out with a 45-degree here on the filter, comes over to this fuel line, then off and then down the frame the rest of the way for the new line. Got that bracket all bolted in and holes drilled in the frame for that. I'll probably, cut that bracket a little bit smaller just to kind of tune up the fit a little bit. And the same with this little bracket back here. This filter was a little too tall for the frame rail. So I just made, just cut a little piece of angle iron there to make that. I'll probably clean that up a little bit, maybe make it the same size and shape as the filter bracket. So the only other thing I did that I didn't have done before was the exhaust. And I did get a couple of these clamps, and they're just temporarily tacked in there. Again, drilled through the top of the cross member to be able to support it, and then wrapped it around there underneath the exhaust. Just put a tack weld in just like everything else. Same with this one over here. So I'll weld all that up when I take everything apart. Okay, so I think that pretty much wraps up all the things we needed to do to the frame before we paint it. So now we'll start pulling everything apart. Okay, so the chassis is pretty much back to where we started. So I'm gonna get all these parts kind of organized in boxes because I might not see some of them for a while, label them so I don't forget. So the next thing is we'll get it up on our trailer and take it to a local powder coating place to see how much they would charge to powder coat all the pieces. Okay, so that's next. Okay, so we got our frame all loaded up on the truck and we're ready to head out. Like I said, we're gonna go to a local shop that's not too far from my house to get an estimate on what this is gonna cost to try to have the frame powder coated. So we'll give you some news in a minute. Okay, so we're back from the powder coating place, got the chassis back in the garage where it'll sit for a bit. So here's where we are. So comparing the two between paint or powder, if I was going to paint it, I'd have to obviously wire wheel and strip the chassis all down. It would still need some more degreasing in some spots up in front where the motor sat, and it had a bad transmission leak. So I'd have a lot more chassis prep work to go. And by the time I bought the rust encapsulator for, you know, the places that aren't going to get down to bare metal, the solvents to clean it, even before I wire wheel it, a number of different wire wheels and tools I would need to strip, and then the paint in order to be able to paint the frame, whether it's, you know, a pour 15 or anything like that, I would at least be, I would think probably $300-400 in material to be able to do the paint. My garage is not really set up for paint yet, so I'd have to invest in that. So that's an extra step. And the powder coating price I got was somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,800. That's sandblasting, priming, taping all the bolts, taping places where bearings would ride, and seals. So basically then I would get it back. So obviously it's a lot more expensive for the powder coating. Positives of powder coating, obviously everyone knows it's a much more durable finish. Positive to the paint, it's cost effective, and for something that I'm probably not going to drive a whole lot, you know, weekend cruises around town, that kind of thing, the paint would probably hold up pretty well. One of the largest factors I'm looking at right now is time. I gave myself a year for this build. It's July. I'm already about 6 months into this project, and I'm only here at the frame with mocking things up. I haven't even really started going back the other way yet. Powder coating, they can have it back for me in a couple weeks. Me, knowing my schedule, the other responsibilities I have around here on our property with, again, as I mentioned before, the gardens, the fields, and the barns and everything, to building the greenhouse, it would take me a long time to do all the stripping. So for the durability, for the finish, for the, I'll say, security of having everything down to bare metal and coming back instead of wire wheeling and then rust encapsulating, but probably most importantly for the turnaround time, I am going to have the frame powder coated. So that's going to wrap up this video. It's a little bit shorter. I got to finish doing some cleanup in the garage, get some stuff sorted, get some stuff marked that's going to go to the powder coater, and then our next video we'll start breaking down the chassis down to the bare parts. So again, thanks for watching. If you enjoy following along with this project and what we're doing, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you back here next time. Thanks a lot.